Once you've acquired a second business, you've potentially inherited a new set of thorny issues: overlapping employees, disparate pay scales, and clashing corporate cultures. So says our next guest. With more than 25 years' experience as a human resources professional with the Providian Corporation, KFC, and now as a consultant, please welcome Sandy Allgaier. Sandy, what are some of the most common stumbling blocks when you're trying to integrate employees from two different companies?
Many times when there's an acquisition or a merger, leaders have a tendency to want to go underground, to sort of want to avoid or stay away from and being in the vision of the employees. There's not a more important time for leaders to do the opposite. They need to be extremely visible.
Is that true for the CEO of the company that's being acquired as well as for the company that's doing the acquiring?
It absolutely is. And in fact, maybe more important for that CEO that's being acquired, because they're the ones that have a tendency to want to disassociate during that time. The ones that are willing to be courageous and be very visible, especially when their company is being acquired, are the ones that can leave such a tremendous impact on people.
So let's establish a to-do list. Let's say I've just bought another company. What are the first steps that I should go through in acclimating the employees to this new event?
I think first of all, what has to happen is the leaders of both organizations have to really understand what's very similar and also what's very different about the cultures of the two organizations. People want to be treated as adults. And so many times CEOs and presidents of organizations have had sort of a parental type of environment where they've operated in. The reality is that most of us don't need parents. Most of us need leaders who are going to be extremely honest and straightforward and tell us what is going to occur. We can handle the ramifications. We can make our choices based on what we know to be the truth. But we just really need to be extremely open and honest about what that truth is. If that means that there are going to be positions eliminated, then talk about the fact that there will be a process to determine where the duplications in resources may be, and how that is going to occur, how that process will work, and the time frame.
Okay, let's talk about that. Evaluating who's essential and who's redundant and what you do when there's overlap. What's the right way to handle labor redundancy?
The best situations I've seen is where you do cross-functional teams. You have people from both organizations operating together, looking at the processes and looking not at which old way is the way we're going to do it, but instead, what's the best way to get things done by blending the resources and the talent and so forth coming out of this organization. So it's putting together cross-functional teams.
Right.
Now on those cross-functional teams, there is a tendency for those teams to get a little, combative perhaps, or competitive. And what I've seen many organizations do successfully is upfront recognize that could occur, put in place maybe a third-party person to facilitate, not to make the decision, but a really strong facilitator to help bring forth all of the facts and facilitate a process to a good decision.
So what are some of the warning signs that things have really run amok?
Well, first one would be turnover. If you start losing a lot of people, especially your key people, during the time of a merger or acquisition, that's telling you things are running, and we need to catch up with that. I think also probably at least as devastating is not necessarily when people leave the job and leave and go to another organization, but when the apathy takes go over and they really leave the job while they're on the job. You also probably are going to see some stress signals. If you have some increase in absenteeism or increase in medical claims, or in some environments even increase in safety claims.
Let's talk about small and mid-sized businesses looking for outside help.
I think the smaller to mid-sized businesses would be surprised about how affordable that is and how available resources are to help them. And what's so difficult is that when you're so mired into the daily activity of completing a project like a merger or an acquisition, it is so challenging to step outside of that. What an external person can do is come in and sort of, be your voice or your conscience and facilitate the process to keep the eye on not just the numbers, because the numbers matter, but the way you get to the numbers, which is through the people of the organization.
Fantastic, Sandy. Good information. And you'll find more of Sandy's insights at sandyallgaier.com.